Mona Brorsson is an Olympic gold medalist from Sweden who retired from competing in biathlon in 2024. I'm Callum Murray, and as part of the BIU's Summer of the Athlete's Voice, I spoke to Mona about her decision to retire and to remain involved in biathlon through her growing interest in sports governance. So, Mona, welcome to this podcast interview on the subject of athletes and their welfare and what they do when they stop being a professional athlete.
Thank you.
First of all, you were very successful as an athlete. You're an Olympic gold medalist. So how and why did you decide to end your career as an athlete?
Well, I actually started to think about it quite early because already in 2019, I got a question in an interview like, are you about to quit? I was 29 at that point and I was a bit shocked because I had no intention of quitting. So I think the idea of quitting has been with me for some time, but after the 2022 Olympic, I really started to think about it in a more serious way, but started to talk about it with my mental coach. And it was in a really open-minded way with curiosity. We approached it and just talking about what do I want to do afterwards and how would it be, how would it feel. I didn't want to quit at that point. I just wanted to talk about quitting. How would it be? And I think it prepared me really well. So just talk with this coach the following years, the 2023 season. That was a really catastrophic season for me. I made a lot of mistakes in the preparations for that season and ended up just shaping shape the whole year. And during that period, I thought about quitting many times. I thought about just packing my bags and go home and never look back. But landing in that I didn't want to end my career in that way. I had so many things I wanted to try and do again, do better. So in the end, that was an easy decision to continue. But my final season, 2024, I come to the terms that I really love biathlon and I love competing and I love being out with my teammates, but I don't really love the way of biathlon anymore. Don't really love the training anymore. I want to spend more time at home with friends and family. So I think the decision became quite easy because I had so many years to think about it and a lot of time to reflect. I loved biathlon, but also loved other things a little bit more. And also I felt I can't stand on a starting line knowing I've not done 100%. So it was the right time for me to step away.
So did you have any idea what you wanted to do after you retired?
I mean, I talked a lot with my coach, the mental coach, about it. So I was prepared, but it was quite intentional that I think I had a plan not to have a plan. I wanted to leave it a bit more open, not make too many plans in advance, because I've heard about other athletes rushing into things. And this was my first time in over, I think, 20 years or something that I didn't have a plan. So I just wanted to take some time for reflection and just enjoy not having a schedule. So in the beginning, not really a full plan, knowing what I wanted to do, but I had decided that if I didn't know, if I didn't like get a job or something proper, I would go back to school and finish my studies. That didn't happen because in the end, I had this great summer break, but then I got the opportunity to work with Swedish television and continue to stay in biathlon, but then as an expert commentator. So it ended up perfectly for me.
But you also, that same year, were elected to join WADA's Athlete Council. Why did you want to join the council and what does the work involve? And did you see that as a way into sports administration, sports politics?
Yeah, like I said, I think I always was interested in sports governance and the way policy is made. But as I was still an active athlete, I didn't take the time to be involved. And I think this is the case for a lot of athletes. You just don't want to compromise on that. So when I got the opportunity after my career, I grabbed it immediately. It was the perfect time. This is really important to me because this is a place where you can actually influence decision making and be a part of the institution that put out the rules and a chance to influence the sport I've been in for my whole life in a hopefully better way and more athlete-friendly way.
You may have sort of partly answered this question, but why do you think athletes' councils and committees are important?
But this is the whole point that you actually get to have someone that represents your voice. And in some committees or councils, you also get voting rights. I mean, it gets very, very real, very concrete that you actually get influence. So that's not something you should take on lightly, I think. So it's both an honor, but also like a responsibility, a way to give back to the sport and the community.
Do you feel that WADA's Athletes Council is listened to? Does WADA take seriously what you say?
Yeah, really. I'm really grateful for how well this council is working. It's not only the council itself, but they also have representatives in the actual board and athletes in the different working groups. So we have athletes represented in multiple areas and on different levels. And many times we have meetings with these the working groups, so they come to us for reporting, but also for listening to have input and to take our advice. And we then see in the final documents, in the final agreements, that they really have listened.
Is anti-doping something you personally feel strongly about? Have you seen evidence of it in biathlon? Is it something that you are personally affected by?
I would say actually no. I mean, I think that biathlon is a very well protected sport, but at the same time, you cannot be too naive and think that our sport is in some magical way completely free of cheating. And this is a way of protecting our sport and upholding our high level of ethics and moral. And I know that a lot of different sports actually look at biathlon and the way we are governed and think that we are doing really well. We get a lot of praise for our work. For myself, I think I started the anti-doping education quite early. It was already in my sports school. I think I was about 16, 17 or something that we started to learn about anti-doping for real. And then it follows us through the whole career, more or less. It's not only education, it's also culture, I would say, how you view, how you look at your sport, how you look at your competitors, but also how you look at yourself, that you have respect for yourself, for the sport and the competitors the whole way. And that has always been the way that I look at my sport at biathlon, that it is a very clean and fair sport.
As you imply, anti-doping is part of the wider governance of sport. What is it that attracts you to the subject of governance in sport?
I think it is a very hands-on way to influence your sport. I know that a lot of people look at this and think it's so much bureaucracy, it's so slowly moving, and it takes a bit of time. It does, but it's also very fascinating for me to see how decision making is made. It is complex. It is a lot of different stakeholders that has to be happy with it, and it takes it has to take some time sometimes, but it is real. It is where you can really see how rules will affect athletes.
Do you have views on how sports governments can be improved?
I do, and I would say that this forum, athletes councils, is the perfect way to improve the governance because when you think about it, what is it all about? It is about the athlete. those are the one in the center. That's why we are here. Those are why we love sport. So we have to involve athletes in a better way, and not only create athletes council, they have to work. They have to do something and give them influence, give them voters' rights, for example. In the long term, it can improve transparency, it improves the governance, it improves democracy in the end.
So what would you say? I mean, I think there are lots of athletes who say they're not really interested in governance of their sport. They're only interested in competing. What would you say to them?
And I would say that that is completely fine. And I understand because I think I was also one of them, interested but not involved. And if you're not interested, then you should definitely not get involved. But what you should be interested in is who you choose as your representative, because that is important. If you don't want to sit in a council, it's fine. Politics and sports governance is not for everybody, but I see it as important and at least be a bit interested in who you want to have as a representative.
I remember interviewing a very well-known, in fact, he was world champion at the time, 400 meters runner. And I asked him about doping in athletics. And at the time, it was a big issue in athletics. And he said, "Oh, I don't take any notice of that. It's nothing to do with me." And he didn't seem to feel any need to be educated about doping and anti-doping. What would you say to an athlete who took that view?
This is actually, or can be, a problem in the future because, like I said, for me, it was not only education, it was also a way of state of mind because how we view our sport comes very much from culture, like our sports culture. How do I look at myself and my competitors? And this is a bigger subject that I think is maybe the most important. How you look at yourself and the rules that apply to you. You cannot pretend that you are unaffected. This will affect you. In the end, it might actually affect the actual result list. So now you need to at least be informed about your rights, your responsibilities.
And last question, for you personally, what will be your next step after your membership of the WADA Athletes Council ends next year? Do you hope to remain involved in sport? And if so, how?
Yes, definitely. This has been such a great experience, and the time really goes too fast. Right now, we are in the middle of making an action plan for the coming years, and there's a lot to do. So I might try to get re-elected. Don't really know yet, but it has been a fantastic experience, and I can really recommend others that have the slightest of interest in the sport politics world to get involved because there's a lot of meetings with other athletes from different sports, so you can learn a lot. We come from quite small sport and from this protected little bubble, and my views have really broadened. So definitely want to stay in this area of athletes representation if possible.
Thank you, Mona. Really interesting to hear from you and to hear the views of a recently retired athlete who wants to stay involved in the sport.
Thank you.